Win or lose, hit the booze.
You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans. With 3 season card holders at Ashton Gate who love the club, the game and all things Bears. Well, who'd have thought it? 3 jokers setting up a podcast with no experience, and we're now into season 6. We're back at our spiritual home, the Bristol Beer Factory studio bar, and all 3 of us have got a pint in our hands.
Cheers, fellas.
All right, lads. How are you? We're good. Just to remind people, by the way, I'm Pete, and I'm joined by Lee and Miles.
Hello, I'm Lee.
Hello, listeners. I'm Miles.
And as is the way, you're joining us for a cheeky beer and a bit of rugby banter.
It's good to be back, isn't it? It's felt like a long, long time away, actually.
It has. Well, it literally has been quite a while, hasn't it? Three months or so. I mean, if you think back to the kind of excitement of that final away day at Quins.
Exactly.
And it's taken a long time to come down from that, hasn't it, boys?
It has.
Well, I'm still riding on the crest of that wave, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's good to be back at the Beer Factory. Posters are still the same. Our seats are still in the same place. Beer's still as good.
We've got new friends to meet now, haven't we, now? We've got a new staff down here
we've got
a
new
factory.
New setup. We've got, and we were very well looked after tonight by Lewis.
Yeah. Who's a Gloucester fan, we should mention. But let's not hold that against him yet.
No. And I think we should mention what beers we're drinking as well. So I'll start off. I'm having a very nice, it's a nice kind of hoppy IPA. It's Trailbreaker. 5% on a Sunday night as well. What about you, Miles?
Yeah, I've gone the same. I mean, that's hardly a session ale, but it looked good. I followed Pete's. I had the same.
And I've gone for the old traditional. I'm going to up your 5% to a 6. Ooh. I've gone for my traditional Southville hop, which is one of my favourites.
It is. I like Southville hop, but you've got to tread carefully with Southville hop, I think.
Well, it's the only one we're getting anyway, isn't it? So, I think I'll be all right, Pete. So
But that's brilliant. It's great to be back. We're in our little corner, and if people are ever interested to find out where we actually record the pod, there is a little blue plaque in the corner of the studio bar, so feel free to come in anytime and sit in our corner, but be sure to buy a pint as well.
We've got some signed coasters somewhere here, haven't we?
Yeah, we should start. Yeah, we might talk about merch later, actually.
Yeah.
But anyway, lads, before we get on to a bit of rugby banter, as we said, quick whip round, find out about the summer. Start with you, Miles. What have you been up to since we last recorded?
I thought you said we last saw you. That was a couple of days ago. I just didn't leave the country this summer. Just decided to have a little break with the family. 1 week in Cornwall, shocking weather. Glamping with the family, and the Duchess, who didn't enjoy compost loos. Well, you wouldn't if you were a Duchess, would you?
No.
And then a little week in a little sort of pad down in Devon, which was very nice, and the weather was great. Bit of surfing, yeah, fantastic.
Oh, that's good, Miles. Lee, did you do any glamping?
No glamping, no. To be honest with you, it's all been work,
Mate.
as the song goes. But actually, bizarrely, I have got a holiday coming up at the end of this month, which does mean, unfortunately, I'm going to miss the Gloucester game. But I'm off to good old Turkey.
Nice.
Just for a week.
Nice.
So,
whereabouts?
Marmaris.
Nice.
So if anyone's got any tips for Marmaris, that they want to DM us, that would be great.
And you've got to do what every Bears fan does when they go on holiday. You've got to take some sort of
some
merchandise.
I've got it's all ready to go, mate. I've got everything. I'm packing everything. Bears.
Budgie smugglers, Bears, budgie smugglers. I hope so.
That's the only ones I've got because Pete wouldn't lend me his.
Well, they're a bit too big, mine, aren't they, for you?
What about you, Pete? Have you left your second home down in Devon this summer? You've just been down in the caravan.
I spent a few. I guess over when you cumulatively 4 weeks or so in the caravan on and off. I mean, it is a caravan, I'd like to say.
I thought you were going to say the Caribbean.
It's not, if only the Caribbean. Unfortunately, it wasn't Caribbean weather. It was a bit up and down, but it was outdoor. It was outdoor life. We all had a good time. Kids had a good time. Out on the water sometimes. It
has been a shocking summer weather-wise again.
It's just been erratic. Yeah. It's hard to get there's been no rhythm. It's like, you know what it's like? It was like a sort of kicking game that never quite works. The box kicks a little bit too far, then maybe there's a good take, a good chase, but it doesn't come to anything, and it's just constant like that.
It feels like when you run in, you just get into the try line, you've been ankle tapped.
Yeah.
That's how the summer's felt for me.
A bit like a few years ago, even last season, we talked about the fact Bristol, the Bears nearly scored hundreds of really good tries, but never quite did, because there was always like dropped it, or as you say, tap tackle, or something went wrong, or the referee failed to see Billy Vunipola off his feet taking going lines.
At all.
Yeah. And that's a little bit niche for people that have been listening for a few years. They know. If you know what I'm talking about, well done. Anyway, it was good stuff. I mean, I'm back at work now, as is the way with all of us, and looking forward to a new season. So, we better talk about rugby, because that's really what people are interested in. Not really that interested in us. So what we got to talk about? Well, a few things. I think we'll start with some things that have kind of come up in the off season. And I guess the biggest bit of news was the announcement of the big day out in Cardiff. For season card holders could claim one of their season their matches for that. Slightly kind of odd that it was advertised as a home game in a different country, but we'll just let that lie for a minute. And of course, they did kind of use it a little bit to whip up a bit of interest, because it was announced before the actual fixtures were announced. So there was a bit of speculation about who we'd be playing, but I think it was no surprise really when the fixtures came out that it was going to be them down the road, mainly because they obviously need a big away support to go as well, even though we're probably all going to be on the same train. But that's settled. There was a bit of chit chat about it. It has settled down now. It's happening, and I'm sure it will be promoted as we go through the season. But I think I'll start with you first, Miles. I mean, what's your general thoughts on that as an event?
Initially, to be fair, I think people there's 50-50 from the Supporters Club website, isn't there? Facebook page. There's a lot of groaning, saying I want a refund, it's a home match, etc. But I'm pretty excited, and I've actually got my seat already. I think next to Pete and his daughter, so that's claimed. Yeah, I mean. And who else would you choose other than them down the road, Bath? It was either going to be Gloucester or Bath, but as you say, we're going to get a lot more support. Slightly worried about the transport issues, but we're the next station down from Bath. There's no chance of us getting on there. So the club, I think, have kindly put on some coaches, but we just got to work out the timings, etc. I think actually it's fantastic. Other clubs do it. Harlequins and Saracens go to Twickenham. And it's our turn to try a big day out. Clearly the media team and the comms team have chatted to these big London clubs, worked out really how many seats they've got to sell to make a profit. And they've worked out and done the numbers. And I guess they suggest that we can do that in Cardiff. So I'm pretty cock-a-hoop, actually, about the prospect of a day out in a stadium I've never been to. So bring it on.
Ooh, he's been well rested over the summer. By the sounds of it, come back very positive. I mean, interesting. Yeah, fair play, Miles. What about you, Lee? Have you got another view on this?
I do have I have probably the complete opposite view of Miles. No, I mean, first of all, I want to say I do applaud the fact that we're trying something different. I think we all agree rugby needs something like this. It needs a kickstart, and it needs innovation, new ideas. So I'm not faulting that. No, it's great that they want to try something different. But for me, the disappointing thing is we're taking it away from it. It could have only been Bath. I agree.
Yeah,
I mean, Gloucester. So. We sometimes don't feel like Ashton Gate when Gloucester come down. The disappointing thing for me is that we lose a lot of the local business, which obviously, in BS3, we all drink locally when we're here. Well, we drink locally when there's not a game.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to have a big impact, especially with we got 10 games a season anyway. Also, I'll align that to the fact that people had already bought their season cards, which I did think, when that announcement was made, people had already got a season card, so they were already committed. And I thought that was a little bit low from the club, that all of a sudden they were expecting a game down the road and now we're off to Cardiff. transport worries me. Like Miles said, I have been to the Millennium, and it can be a nightmare getting to. And then we're just a couple of stops away, really, on a train. But we need to get that sorted out, because that's going to really jar people off if there's a nightmare getting there. So I'm not so keen on it, if I'm totally honest. But I don't want to sound like Mr. Groany Pants or whatever. But I just feel like we've got to try something different. But I don't know if this is going to be it. And ultimately, I don't think we'll get enough bums on seats to make it financially viable. That's my worry.
Yeah. No,
I hope I'm proven wrong.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think all good points made. I mean, fair play. I mean, my take on it is I haven't really got much else to add. Yeah, much else to do, really. I mean, I'll go anyway. But although I'll miss a game of cricket, annoyingly, for it, because it's still in the beginning of the cricket season. But park that. I mean, a couple of points I'll make is, obviously, the club are also trying to use it to pull in some maybe fair weather fans, the other side of the border, who might consider coming over to Ashton Gate as kind of interested neutrals almost from Cardiff or Newport maybe. I mean, and actually, when you think about it, the only chance a lot of people get to go and watch a decent game of rugby at the Millennium Stadium is obviously an international, and it's pretty expensive. Yeah. And actually the price point is obviously a lot cheaper, and you could argue that it'd be probably, because it's a club game and it's a kind of derby, it could be a very exciting game, and maybe people around that region, as well as Bristol and Bath fans, would have an interest in just seeing a more cost-effective, good game of rugby. And if they do manage to fill it with the roof closed, I can see it being a spectacle. And of course, that's the kind of point you were making as well, is that it has to be a spectacle.
Yeah.
I think it has to be that good for everybody to get everybody on board, as well as financially viable. And actually, a mate of mine is Bristol lad, actually, that moved to Cardiff, someone I went to uni with, and he lives there with Welsh wife, kids are all Cardiff schools. He's basically there, and he was telling me that actually him and his mates as dads, they're sporty dads, are all talked about getting groups together and using the group discount. And it's only anecdotal, but they've tapped into, there are sports fans who like the sound of it, and Bristol's not so far away from. So we'll see. I think you're right. It's a wait and see. I mean, it was always going to be Bath, and I think we've just got to go with it and see what happens.
My only thing, just to jump in about that, Pete, is I get we might get more supporters there from the Welsh supporters, but that's not going to add anything to the atmosphere for me, because ultimately we're watching Bristol against Bath.
Yeah,
we're going to lose. I know we're going to have a bigger stadium, but to me, we're going to lose that element of that rivalry, because there's going to be a lot of fans there, hopefully, if they do turn up, who have they won't have a favourite side. Do you see what I mean? And it's almost football, like the football tourism, which we've all seen with our clubs. That worries me. And if you lose the atmosphere, it will either sell or it will flop massively.
And you know what? I've just had a terrible thought. What we might see being sold outside?
Oh no!
Oh no!
It's the first part.
It's May. It's in May.
It's going to happen. For those that don't know what we're talking about, it's one of Lee's nemesis. It's the half and half scarf. I can see it. They're going to produce half and half for the Cardiff market, because of course, then they'll say, well, then they take them home. And it'll be like they're weighing up which one of these two should we go and watch. So if we
imagine that
if it is a half and half, whoever's out there, make sure the Bristol half of it is the better one, so that at least. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine though? But by then we might even have half and half dry ropes. Can you imagine that?
We might as well amalgamate the two clubs, haven't we? And go with like.
I mean, it is a big
Braff rugby.
Yeah,
it's a sort of like logistical headache for us fans, and it's a bit of a logistical headache for the Bears players and everything surrounding. They're going to have to take a mobile merch shop, aren't they?
I don't think the players are going to get the train though, like us.
No, absolutely. But there better be. There's going to have to be a pop up Bristol Bears store, isn't there? Probably a bit better than Ashton Gate. To be fair, but it can't be any worse. And the thing is, as it's not their ground, what if Bath rock up with a little pop-up Bath store? I mean, it's chic of it. Could do.
Yeah, they'd be entitled to.
Be entitled to.
Guerrilla marketing.
I mean, we'll just push it down, no doubt.
Well, I think time will tell.
We'll see.
But yeah, I think we've raised a couple of issues that haven't been discussed in the
I
forums.
think actually that discussion we've just had pretty much sums up the fan base from what I've heard.
Yeah, I think so. But I think broadly speaking, I mean, we'll
give it a go. We'll support it.
We'll
Yeah.
very much look forward to the pod after that. And actually, who knows? It might be an opportunity for a live pod
In Cardiff.
the Harlequins boys did their first live pod at the Tiny Rebel
Yeah, they did
bar
actually, didn't they? Yeah.
when they played Cardiff away. So there's a template. Well, watch this space. I can't believe we've already booked in a live pod in about a year's time. But anyway, right. Well, look. Let's move on. So let's move on to something I think we've probably got a unanimous agreement about, not just us three, but also across the whole fan base, which was the launch of the new home strip.
Yes.
And then last week also the away one. But I think, again, there was a lot of speculation. I think the media team did a good job, as they do.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of already, it was classic. There was a bit of like moaning, wasn't there? It's like, well, everyone else has launched their home shirt. And normally, it gets launched at the Balloon Festival and there was nothing there. And of course, they left it to the open training session, which I managed to go to, but we'll talk about in a minute. And actually, that was quite a good move because they then had it all ready. They had loads of shirts in the shop and they probably sold a large number on that morning. So
there is one thing I would say with that though. I would like to see the shirts in the shops ready for one before people go on holiday. Because I think it'd be, you know what I mean? Like just something we could, these little, we talk about fine margins, but these little things that we could tap into, because like people go on holiday, it's like, if the shirt's in there, you're gonna buy one, aren't you?
You didn't go on. You didn't go on holiday wearing the teddy bear one from last year, did you, mate?
I've got a story about that. Yeah. So I came back. I'd been at the caravan. We came back that week. I went to the training session, bought the shirt, and then that night we went back down to the caravan, and I was wearing it in South Devon on a Friday. But went into a cafe. Girl comes up to me. Is that the new Bristol Bears top? And she was like, "Oh, she's working down there in the summer." She goes, "Oh, I'm a Bears fan." And I heard about that. I said, "How have you got it?" I was like, hot off the press. Yeah. I said I put it on yesterday. I said I haven't taken it off since yesterday.
That's exactly the point I'm trying to make.
Exactly what I'm saying. It was a bit late in the season.
You should have said I drove through the night to get it down to Selkirk. And here it is.
I drove all night.
But I don't think we need to rehearse. Everyone, I think, universally loves the hoops.
Well, we should say actually, it's the first shirt that we've all bought, and we're even including our dearly departed
friend
founder,
TC.
Yeah,
he's still with us. He's
still
alive.
with us. Yeah, just not with us now.
Well, and it's the first shirt we've all bought before the start of the season.
Yeah.
We love it that much.
Absolutely, 100% love it.
It's good. And I think the other only point I'd raise on it is that it's slightly odd is that they've done it for fans with the kind of a blank white box at the back, which obviously is where the number would go.
Yeah,
if you're a player.
What else would fit in there nicely?
Well, I did think about what else, and I think anybody who follows our socials may have realised that we came up with a great idea. It's the perfect size for a Bears Beyond the Gate logo. So we're looking into. I'm not joking, boys. No. I've already started Googling this. It's like, how can you get, what's the cheapest way of getting, our logo screen printed onto that square at the back? And then when I work it out and we get it on ours, we'll set up a website where if people want to do it, we'll sell the rights to our logo to anybody, and like a little, you get a password that tells you how you do it, and then can you imagine all these people at Ashton Gate walking round, because it's going to be a lot of people. And nobody's thought about that's the advertising opportunity on the back of those. Forget about their shirts, the player shirts. It's not about the player shirts, it's about our shirts.
Absolutely. But one thing I would say, how lovely is it? I'm just looking, Miles is sat opposite me now and he's wearing his shirt. How lovely is it that we haven't got loads of sponsorship on it? Because when I look at, I used to like the Scarlet shirts, but then it got more and more sponsorship and advertising, and you can barely see that it's a Scarlet shirt now, but this is lovely. It's obviously got the makers, it's got the Bears, it's got the sponsors on the front, and that's it, and that's lovely, isn't it?
The fewer sponsors you have, the more the perception of how better off you are as a club, and even if it's a perception. Although to be fair, those shirts with lots of sponsors on, they're quite good in pub quizzes. You just put them down and say, right, name the sponsors.
But so
and then a brief mention of the away kit.
Yeah.
We like that, don't we?
Yeah,
we do.
like
Like
to.
it, but we're not. None of us are rich enough to splash out on both. So
No,
I've already bought both City shirts this year as well, home and away. So
I like that. I like the City shirt.
Yeah.
Well, I bought the away shirt last year. The bear pit one.
Yeah.
And I mean I quite like that. And I just think I'm gonna have to.
It's a classic. I mean, why would you not wear this Hoops home or away classic shirt?
And we should congratulate the clubs because because Hoops is it's our spiritual top, and it's fantastic.
I mean, it does beg
shirt.
the question that where are they going to go with this afterwards? Because you can't really go back, so it's going to have to be. And I wonder whether there is a thought in this: is that since the rebrand, obviously they had to go a bit different to draw in new fans, draw in new market. They've done the kind of the Beary stuff.
And they've done the American football stuff as well, haven't they?
And I think now maybe they've said, now we're established. We've got those people in. They're locked in.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to tradition and what everyone remembers. And I think my prediction is I don't think we'll have variations on this now.
From now on. You can still do a bit with the Hoops because you could actually have like a blue strip down here, couldn't you? And you could go smaller there. There is variations.
Someone did say there are a few pedantic people around, and that's fair play because attention to detail is good. I mean, there were some people saying it's not technically Hoops, are they? Because they're not joining.
But that's just nonsense, isn't it?
I mean, I thought I'd mention it.
Yeah.
It wasn't me, but sometimes Miles does go a bit too far, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right then. So that's good. Talking of the open training session when it was announced, I did. Obviously, I'm very fortunate to be off on holiday, unlike proper people who work all the way through and only get 20 days holiday. But I'm sorry, we all make our choices. But I did go down to the open training session. I wasn't expecting that much because I know it's very much for the kids. I actually quite enjoyed it. I think they ramped it up a little bit from last year. And one of the things they did was they had three kind of carousel of three sort of skills-based sessions, and they split them up into threes.
Oh, right.
And the one that was the best one was they had them all in a line passing to each other, and it was kind of like a race.
Yeah.
So and honestly, it was just like watching a bunch of school kids. I don't know if they were hamming it up, but it was like you start with a person, you're passing it out to the fit, then they pass it back again. It was like who wins.
Yeah.
And they're all moaning because Sean Marsden set it all up. And they were all moaning at him because he was saying you won. It was hilarious. And of course, do you guess who was the chopsiest of all? Chopsiest. Who was complaining the most?
You?
No, not me.
Oh,
Which
sorry.
player do you think was the chopsiest, the moaniest player on this game?
Sorry, with me.
Yeah, you're not.
Pete, I should just say. I'm just going to say.
We're just like.
Lads,
There's the reason for this. Should we go quiet? This is the reason.
This is the reason. Me and Miles were just discussing. This is our first of the season.
That's fair enough.
We had to, Pete. Sorry,
that was
mate.
just like one of my GCSE lessons. As I say to my students, I'm
Kids with beards in your class.
and I say to them when they're not listening, I say, girls, I've already got an A in O-level geography. I'm not talking to myself here. I don't need to teach myself. Anyway, what I was saying was this open training session. It was quite funny.
Yeah.
Because they were like school kids, like competitive, and you could see it. And who was the biggest chopsy moaner when it didn't work? Was complaining to Sean Marsden, sporting this year a mullet because it
Forward or back?
forward, likes to talk. Was really showboating in front of everyone. Lives locally, changes his...
Max.
Yes.
Max.
Oh, no way.
You're right. We spotted his little mullet.
He's got a little mullet now, and he was hamming it up. I'm fair play to him. He's got his brands to promote. He was quality. Anyway, going back to it was good fun. They looked like they were enjoying themselves. It was quite good fun. They were doing these little skills things. It was quite interesting to see. And then afterwards, Pat lined every single one of them up, like all of them. The squad plus the academies, and then they all
quiz?
just introduced them all, and then they had to say where they lived.
Okay.
They had to say where they lived, and like what Olympic sport would they do if they were in the Olympics. It was quite fun.
It's a bit of a random thing.
It was pretty random, and of course
It's quite nice to know maybe where they live in Bristol.
yeah, there was some mixture like AJ McGinty lives in Frampton Cottrell. Never knew that.
Okay.
Jan Thomas, who famously grew up like a minute from the ground, lives in
Ashton Park
Gloucester.
Lives in
Apparently.
Gloucester.
Yeah.
He's lived around here, didn't he?
Yeah, he lives in Gloucester.
Oh, okay.
And then obviously Max Malins lives in Clifton. because that was about the only reason. Yeah, one of the reasons he came back, and all the young lads.
There's probably a few.
The Millfield boys, the academy boys,
living their bachelor pads in Clifton.
A couple of them. George Taylor, who's in the academy, I know his dad. He lives in Nailsea. He still lives at home.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he lives opposite my mate Blunders. Yeah, so he lives there.
Diego Bailey.
Diego Bailey Southmead. He's a meter.
I thought he was.
He said it loud and proud.
Yeah, so he should.
And George Klosker, he's Southmead.
Okay.
And a couple of Long Ashtons, and obviously Max Leave lives around here somewhere. I was trying to think who. I can't remember the others, but there was a few. There's a few Redlands. It's a nice geographical spread. Yeah. And it was a kind of slightly awkward. But one thing I would say to Pat, we know he is the headmastery type, and his attention to detail is pretty good. I mean, he knew, obviously, but he had every single name of Pat, literally, and he struggled with one guy. There was one moment where I could see he panicked because he couldn't remember his position, and he kind of said midfield or something like that. But fair play to him. So it was good. It was good. I enjoyed it actually.
Okay.
It was a good atmosphere.
Nice to have something a little bit different. Different skills session.
And I bumped into a couple of pod listeners who.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, who came up and recognised me. Yeah. Because I was Instagram live-in at the time.
Okay.
You obviously didn't follow that, boys, did you? No.
No, we were still on holiday.
We were at work.
Oh, yeah.
On holiday.
Flipping out.
Right, well, anyway, so I think it was a positive. It was kind of a long time coming, the pre-season, but then there was quite a lot of stuff that came towards the end.
Yeah.
And in some ways, that's not a bad strategy because it's kind of got us going.
It's got us keen for the start of the season.
And it got us so keen that me and Miles decided to go down to the
Clifton Rugby Club.
Yeah, pre-season friendly.
In a shocking rain.
Absolutely hammered down with rain. And
Biblical, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't take a coat.
Oh, I know.
I took an umbrella, but I mean that was no use because you can't really put it up when everyone stood there. So, but it was quite good. It was good to see, and it was. We should say right from the get go, it was really well put on by Clifton. It was. I mean, I know it's not like having 18,000 people watching a game, but they did a really good job there. Everything was really thought out, and they obviously made a decent amount of cash for grassroots rugby. But Miles, you were there. We kind of chatted a bit, watched a bit of the game, and then every now and again, sort of thought, "Oh, there's a game going on."
There's a game going on.
But generally, Miles, give us what your thoughts were on the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, the weather was absolutely shocking, and it was a slippery pitch. But I think like most fans, the team sheet was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I mean that was
strong
side, stacked in our favour, really good. I mean, I knew none of the Welsh boys, I'm afraid to say.
Did you, Pete?
I think it was a couple of the Williams boys were there, but
Rodri?
Rodri, I'm pretty sure. And there was another. I don't know. I felt as though one of them, there was the other guy that went, and I can't remember. But anyway,
anyway, it was good to see.
Randomly mentioned Welsh names, aren't you?
There was a couple of Joneses, and there was a couple of Joneses.
Anyway,
as well.
Let's get
couple
on
of
with
Williams,
it.
couple
Anyway,
of Joneses.
First half.
There was a Reese.
Anyway, first half, Bristol dominated. It was really encouraging. Some great tries. Rands ran over and a lovely little try in the corner, his usual little zippy self, didn't he?
The zip man.
Zip man. We chat about perhaps some of the centres and the partnerships with Pete in a little bit, but it's encouraging. Tailed off in the second half, but that's understandable. We were trying to sort of get everyone on the bench some game time, which is great. That was the strategy on the night. They got the tails up, the peckers up, the Welsh, didn't they? Came back strong. They made a few changes, looked pretty zippy. And they might even have outscored us in the second half. I mean, forget the score. It was like 40, 44-20 or something like that. So a win, but it was a great hit out for a lot of the players we know, and a great hit out for Pete and I on Friday night, our first game. Good to see.
Well, Miles,
anyway, Pete, what do you think?
Well, Miles, I think you summarised that really well. But actually, we managed to get a little bit of a scoop on the night. And we went with our little recorder, didn't we?
We did.
Thinking we might talk to someone. And after the game, we thought, you know what, let's just go straight to the top.
You didn't just talk to anyone.
Didn't talk to anybody.
No way. Not just anyone, random in the bar.
We hunted him down. And there was this bloke carrying all this kit to the car. It was Pat. And we went up and said, Pat, we're the lads from Bears Beyond the Gate. Would you give us a little soundbite? And he was like, yeah, boys, I've just got to put all the kit in the car. And he went to the car. We thought he's never coming back. And he didn't. He came back and he treated us as if we were, media
royalty.
celebrity royalty.
Select
And
media.
Pat gave us his take on the game, which we can hear now.
Here we go. Right, so we're here with DOR Pat. It's been a bit of a wet, miserable night at Clifton, but it's great for us fans to see the lads out having a bit of a hit out. Just give us your kind of thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I mean, pleasing. Like it's, there's some good parts, but in the game. But we've had a big week. Took the boys away to Cardiff for a bit of a cohesion session, if you like. So they were a little bit dusty on Tuesday, and then we had some of us had to go to London. So it's been a disruptive, but they've worked hard in pre-season, and that's been the priority. And then today we had a game in Doncaster, the early one, and then this one. But it's good to come here. I think the biggest takeaway from this is we've got to get our discipline right. I mean, back-to-back penalties, as we're just talking about it there, but we've got to make teams work harder to get their points against us rather than gifting it. But there's some good points in there. So all in all, it's been a good day. The weather, I think we've had 2 games with dry weather where we could play our game. This one, a little bit tougher.
Well, I suppose the first game of the season is Falcons away, so I suppose you're going to predict it might be pretty bad weather. So in some ways, it's not a bad thing.
I looked at Newcastle in September. It's always good, but they obviously got their 4G pitch. But no, I mean, you mentioned that game where we're on track. I mean, it's good to have that game, and as you guys know, we go up there and it's never an easy game. We're either very close or we lose those games. So to have it as our real focus to get up there, and Dimes has already got his imprint in there. As I was talking to him earlier, he's worked. He's got a new group of players he's had in pre-season. We know how tough it's going to be. So that's our main focus, to get up there and hit the ground running. And it's good to get Genji back for his first game, Rands for his first hit out. So it's looking good.
I mean, last thing is, one thing we noticed, it was really good to see Calavetti Ravuvu play in.
Yeah.
And I thought it was almost like seeing a new signing, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. Like, I think the Colour missed pre-season, came after the World Cup. But what we didn't pick up till late, he was struggling with his shoulder. And he was playing, and we realised he was struggling with his weights, and obviously learning the game, learning everyone, obviously English second language. But the difference now, we put him into surgery before the end of the season, so we knew he could get back, and he's done all pre-season, and 6 kg heavier, faster, stronger, knows the boys really well, knows the game plan. And as you guys know, the midfield for me is important because they're the big drivers. So we've got Jimmy Williams, we've got BV, and we've got Colour. All 3 of them are on form, so it's really pleased on how he's come on.
Well, really appreciate your time. We're all looking forward to the season, and bring it on.
Yeah, bring on the Bears. Cheers, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Well, Miles.
Well done, boys.
Well, that was very unexpected. But, what we might say is a fantastic local club, Clifton Rugby. It was great. Yeah. It was a bit like when we went to the Stoop. You could get pitch side, chat to the players, literally touch them. And it was great. We hung around. Obviously, our Bears Beyond the Gate hats on, etc., waiting for some media scoops. But for respect and thanks ever so much, Pat, for giving us the time. Clearly, he knew that Lee wasn't there, so he was more than willing to chat to us.
Otherwise, he would have gone to his booth and stayed there.
I know a lot of listeners are like, Pete, why didn't you ask him the obvious question, which was, so Pat, has the patois been lifted? But I just thought it was raining, and it probably quite complicated to explain that to him. So I kind of kept it fairly standard. But yeah, I mean, a couple of interesting things that came out of that interview. Not least the bit at the end, he goes, as you guys know, the midfield is really strong. And I was
what's he on about?
A, I like the fact that he thinks that we know quite a lot of stuff. And secondly, have we mentioned that in a pod sometime? And he's been listening avidly for it. And he's been waiting to tell us.
To be fair, midfield is quite an important part, because without a midfield, you're screwed.
I think he was hedging his bets a little bit there.
Absolutely, we were talking about the midfield, and there was this new little partnership of Van Rensburg and Ravuvu.
Which one?
And like you said, Ravuvu looked like a new player.
I mean, he's bulked up a bit, you boys said.
Well, that's what Pat said, yeah, 6K.
We thought it was just, last season, we're up in the stands, row 20. He looks quite tall and skinny, but he was beefed up. Well, on the ground, massive thighs.
I think about you last season, because he didn't come on that very often. He looked a bit streaky, I thought, a bit lanky.
Yeah,
and that was before we spoke to Pat. We'd said to each other, he looks he doesn't look the same as last year. He's bulked up a bit. He looked a bit. His thighs
A
are
bit
a
like
bit
James done the previous season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He looked more semi than he had done last year. Randall. Anyway, obviously, Pat, our instincts were right, because Pat actually said in that interview, he's bulked up, and we were quite keen to find out. Say about him, because we thought he was the most positive thing that night. It looked like a new signing, and apparently it turns out, as we found out, is that when he came back from the World Cup, it wasn't just integrating. He had a bit of a shoulder problem, and he had to kind of integrate, learn a bit of English because it's a second language, and obviously that involves some intense kind of lessons on the Blackbird as well. And the trouble was, when he came, we didn't win many games, did he, for a while? So he didn't have a chance to practice. So, it put back his language learning a bit until after the Six Nations.
Well, and also it would align to the fact that we've already said that this season, we're going to be a bulkier side. We're going to smash. We're going to smash more teams. So that would kind of go along with that policy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So it was, I think we learned. I felt as though we got a little bit of insight there, a little bit of a scoop. But it wasn't just Pat that we spoke to, was it? We also
we were just walking around the try line to get a different view in the second half. Turns out we didn't have a good view because Cardiff. The Dragons were in our half most of the time. But lo and behold, who did we bump into? With his dad.
Harry Randall and his dad.
No way.
Just kind of chilling out behind the posts, and he was just literally there on his own. So I thought, I said,
why
all right.
not?
Let's ask.
So he gave us a little soundbite, and I wasn't quite as prepared for this one. So I was like, I don't know what question to ask him. So I did my best. But anyway, this is what Harry said to us. Right, I'm here with England player Harry Randall. Harry, it's dark. It's pissing down with rain. How are you enjoying pre-season?
Yeah, it's gone really well so far. Nice to have my first run out here at Clifton. Nice to be out in the local, back to the good old days where we used to be. But no, it's good to be out here, get a little run out, and slowly building nicely into the season.
So Falcons' first game of the season, everything looking good for that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, like you say, these games here, and then another little warm-up game next week. Just to keep building and ticking over before hopefully hit the ground running and take off where we left off last season. Is that the right saying?
I think so. And last question. I mean, obviously you tasted a bit of international kind of action in the summer. Are you looking forward to maybe a bit of autumn international action for England?
Yeah, I'd love to. Obviously, sole focus for now is like you say, pre-season, finishing up these friendlies games. And getting back up and running in the Prem. So that's my sole focus at the moment. And then whatever will be, hopefully. So we'll see.
Textbook answer.
Yeah,
cheers, mate. Have a great season. We look forward to seeing you again.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Harry. Happy days. Right, I'll shoot you around there.
Well, there you go. What a lovely chap Harry is.
Lovely
And,
bloke.
I mean, I realised, after the event, you always think of things you should have said. I should have asked him about his kids and how he's sleeping, and like actually, what was it like in like New Zealand? Did he go did he do the bungee jump, all of that stuff. But maybe if we catch him again,
we might see him again.
We might see him again. It feels like we've now got this reputation as roving reporters, and maybe who knows who we'll get to speak
we'll
to.
See. There we are. The thing is now top dog we've had on the pod now. Where does it go from there?
It's been a good start to the season.
But that's
isn't
great.
it?
Well,
I mean,
I'll tell you where it goes.
We're chuffed a bit.
It goes even higher.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We've got a standing request to come on the pod from Big Steve Lansdowne. I mean, we
Mr.
held back a
Lansdowne,
bit last
we're waiting
season.
for you.
We held back a bit. We thought there was a lot going on, but maybe it's time to regenerate that request. Yeah. Fire up the old helicopter, Miles. Let's get out to Guernsey.
We'll make sure. We're going to
we've got to go to him.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
Oh yeah. And I forgot to tell you, boys. He contacted me in the summer. He said, "Boys, we've got a moment. Come over for the weekend. Me and Maggie. We'll look."
So Pete, we know you like your holidays.
Actually, I forgot to tell you, lads. I've already been out there. I've already done the recording. Sorry, just slipped my mind. Anyway, let's move on quickly. A couple of other things. We talked about Calavetti Ravuvu, and I should also say I put something out. I tweeted something out about him, like tick. Good tick Ravuvu. He liked our tweet as well.
Good lad.
So he's clearly not realising.
Do you know
that
the club are following us now on
Yes,
on
saw
X
that as well. Yeah,
Twitter. Sorry.
yeah, and Prem Rugby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Stephen James, when did he start?
And Stephen
following us?
Jones, yeah, and Donald Trump,
That's Donald Trump
and Vladimir
the
Putin,
parody one.
and apparently God.
Oh, we
as well.
really are moving on. We're moving in high circles now, boys, aren't we? TC, why did you leave us?
Oh,
Can you
dear,
imagine
things
if
are
you
going.
did see suddenly God
Looking at you.
Yeah, especially if
Who
you
would
had
it be?
50 million followers.
I know this is not. This reminds me of a classic Blackadder, where when Lord Flashart's there and he goes to Stephen Fry's Melchett, he goes, "All right, Melchett, still following God." Last time I heard, he'd started following me, Woof, like that, and I think I like it. Anyway, that's by the by. So the other point we were going to say, there's two other positives. Benjamin Grondona, I think, young lad, looked very
beast mode.
solid. He looked comfortable in that kind of
number 8
filthy
position.
kind
He
of
did.
weather.
Yeah,
and I think that
absolutely.
augurs well for our back row, especially since we've lost his brother to the rugby championship, and
And we've lost Matter to injury.
we've lost
it would
Big
appear,
Bill
haven't
Matter
we?
to injury. So that was a positive, I think. And then finally,
What,
Miles.
losing Bill Matter?
Well, a positive. No, Benjamin
No,
Grondona.
but he's
Yeah,
fit.
no-
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I mean, we should kind of go on that basis a little bit more, actually, because Matter's going to be a big loss because we've basically set on our stall out to have him at number 8.
We have.
And that's a big loss. And also, Grondona steps in, which is great. But if he gets injured, where are we going from there?
Well, I was saying to you earlier, James Dunn played 6 from the start, and you're now looking. He's probably being looked at as a back row starter rather than a lock, tight head lock. And I mean, big Josh Caulfield started. Which I think is fine, but you do worry. We obviously got Jake Heenan will be in there as well in the mix as the go-to
it's a
man.
concern going into a new season, I think.
And I think we won't know until it starts. I mean, I think every club is also in the same position with smaller squads and so on. But we've just got to keep our fingers crossed. And
We've
then
got a
hope that
smaller squad in the Premiership.
I think we have, haven't we? I mean, there's talk of it potentially being back in November, but he's not going to be match fit, is he?
Yeah.
He's the upper side of his 20s, well, over 30, isn't he? So it's just slower recovery. So we'll just, wish him well, hope for a speedy return. Yeah.
This type of game as well, you can't just throw him in, can you?
Exactly.
Although I do wonder that we have finally got to the point after however many years since the rebrand where they're now a bit more confident on putting in lads that have come through the academy. And I think that's
you're right.
We
another
will
part.
see that this season.
And your likes of Diego Bailey, your likes
Joe
of Joe
Owens.
Jenkins, Joe Owen, Paddy Pearce. I think there's going to be a place for these lads, and I think maybe this is the reason. There is now some trust that these boys have been in the background. They've been aligned. They've got all of this good stuff.
Ready.
They're ready, and I think this could be the story of this season. Could be the likes of George Kloska coming through.
And it would be lovely, wouldn't it?
It'd be brilliant
lovely to see.
because we are waiting a little bit for Bristolians to come through.
I think we've had naturally, we said it, like the last couple of years, we've had a void, haven't we, where these lads haven't been quite ready to step up. But as you say now, I think that void now is we've got parity with it. So,
Well, there was one other positive thing that came out of the pre-season. I'm going to leave it to the end, Miles,
Oh, fine.
because I just want to have a quick chat with you all very quickly. We're probably not going to do a preview for the Falcons pod game next week because we haven't really got much to say.
We don't know
but
who's
I think
gonna play, do
all I
we?
would say is, my question I might pose to you is, Falcons away, is that a good or a bad first game of the season for us? Give me your answer and give me your reasons.
I guess you could argue, it's 50-50, flip a coin. Any away game is going to be a tough gig on the opening night of the season. And potentially, Newcastle didn't win a game last season, did they? We know Steve Diamond's in charge. He's an excellent coach. He's no mug whatsoever. He will have...
He'd whip you into shape, wouldn't he,
He would. He
Miles?
whipped me into shape, and just beat me within an inch of his life. He's going to turn that squad around. They've got a lot of new signings in. Yeah, admittedly, some youngsters in. Gel them over the summer. I haven't looked at what pre-seasons they've been playing, but it's been our bogey fixture, isn't it?
But we haven't
Newcastle
lost there
away.
for a while.
Well, I thought we lost the season before.
Yeah,
this.
not last season.
Last season
So
before.
what are you saying? Good
So
or
I'm
bad?
saying, good that it's Newcastle, but we cannot muck around. I think Pat alluded to that when our little cheeky interview
We need
on
like
Friday
a little bell,
night.
don't we?
He's
now?
done
Ding, ding.
alluded.
When we do that, we just ring the bell.
Yeah.
We cannot underestimate a wet and windy night in the northeast against a Steve Diamond team, Steve Diamond team, who are a bit of unknown. So do we say like it's already a must-win first game to set our stall for coming back for the Gloucester?
Well,
End of it. That's my point.
I think
on
we'll
it.
leave listeners to decide whether that was good or bad. Lee, what about you?
I'm going to say, I don't know. I mean, you could. I can understand why Miles has gone around the house of it. You could. There is a suggestion that they've got a load of new players. It's going to take them time to gel. They might be, not quite so fluid on their formations and systems yet. It will. I think ultimately, Newcastle will be stronger than they were last year, but I don't know how much stronger. And I think ultimately it was always going to be a tough. It was a tough game last year. It's going to be a tough game this year, and it'll be a tough game.
I mean, we didn't get
next year.
We didn't get a bonus point there last year,
No.
did we?
So
tough.
I think good or bad, it's going to be a hell of a tough game. But I think I'd be quite happy we scrape through it with a win, and then roll on Gloucester.
I think I agree with you, Lee. I think we don't really want to lose to a team we nearly put 100 points on not that long ago, albeit at home. But it's a win, an ugly win will do me.
Yeah.
A cheeky win.
Yeah.
And if we do get a bonus point out of it, great. But I think we'd all be happy. We'd get the season running with 4 points, and then we welcome Gloucester,
Absolutely.
and then we go for it. So yeah, fingers crossed. I don't know if anyone read the rugby paper this morning. There was a bit of an interview with Steve Luatua, kind of he basically saying he thinks we'll win the Prem. Which I kind of think everyone should really say, because what's the point?
you'd hope so.
Maybe
What's the
Newcastle
point? Yeah.
might be stretching it a bit, but I mean, we're definitely in it. We're very close to playoffs. We had momentum. It's a couple of very interesting comments I thought in there. One of them was he kind of said that the players had quite a lot to do with the change of strategy after the Connacht game. That there was very much, we had a kicking game in the first half of the season, didn't work, and we then went back to our roots.
So it wasn't just Big Steve then?
No. So it looked like he this is just a quote, that the players were involved. It reinforces what we all know, is that there was definitely a massive U-turn and change of plans.
Which was needed.
Which was needed.
We agree.
But he sort of said, we've got some good signings, as you would do, and they're integrating well. This was probably before Bill Maher got injured. And I think it made me think, what we are, we have to be a top four club. We talked about this, and we'll, if we predicted where we're going to come, I don't think we should say anything but we have to be in top four, whether it will happen. But where we are now, we got the hoops back. We've brought up our academy. We were probably the most formed team at the end of last season. We've got a fantastic training ground.
Everything's there on the plate.
We have to get into the top four this season.
I mean, we
Everything's there
were
on
a
the
bit doom and gloom. We probably don't recollect, but our prediction for last season
Yeah, I said eighth.
was not a good place, was it? 8 out of 10. And there we go. And we nearly put off fourth place, but for
Sarries.
but for the bonus points that we should have, could have, didn't get there, did we?
Yeah.
It was our own downfall, really, that we didn't.
Were
hit
we
the top
architects
four.
of our own downfall?
Yes.
I think ultimately we were.
We ultimately were.
And there we
you
go.
know.
Ding.
Ding. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I mean, I don't know. I listened to a fantastic football one called Football Cliches, which is about the language of football. And we have talked about this a little bit in the past pods, particularly with Bernard Yancey van Rensburg, who can do a consummate post-match interview with a whole load of rugby cliches. But I do think that's something we need to push a bit more this season. But we need to be critical of ourselves. If we're going to bring a little bell to the pod, and if someone does say a cliche like that, or something we always say, like a lewd, there has to be some sort of fining, or at least a dinging system.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
But ultimately, getting back to the question,
get back to real stuff.
I believe like the positivity this season is based on the amount of injuries we get, and B, these youngsters stepping up and actually stepping up to a level of performance that, entitles us then to push on for that top four. I do feel we're a small squad, and I do feel, I don't want to say negative because I'm not, but I do feel it is, can either go two ways. I think if we keep people fit and the youngsters push on, we could have a good season.
That reminded me. I think it's very, very sensible, but it just reminded me of one of my old teachers. His catchphrase was that sort of thing. You'd say, "Sir, what do you think?" He goes, "Well, there's no two ways about it. It could go either way." And I always remember that. And it was like, brilliant. That's great. I have no idea what you're saying. That's good. But yeah, no, fair enough. Well, look, you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans. If you want to get in touch with us, then you can email us on bearsbeyondthegate@gmail.com. You can contact us on Twitter, which is bearsbeyondgate. At Bears Beyond Gate, I should say.
Sorry,
also, we got Facebook, and also we have our Instagram account, which is Bears Beyond the Gate. We've gone up to 205 followers now.
Wow!
And actually, I think we're going to pump that a bit more.
Are we?
And I put some stuff up from the game on Friday, a bit of a film of me and Miles, a bit of selfie talk, walking to the game. Got some traction on that, 50 likes on that one. So I think keep an eye out on Instagram. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
That takes us to our last little bit, boys. Our any other business. I think the first thing I was going to say very briefly was I think in terms of the pod, we're clearly shown willing to carry on doing it. We'll do it as regular as we can. We want to carry on getting listeners involved. Our short, sharp summaries, both prosaic and poetic.
Absolutely.
I think we can build on that this season.
Yeah, go for it.
We would put a general shout out now to anybody who goes to kind of difficult away games that we're not going to go to. We'd be very happy to receive voice notes via Twitter, DMs, just giving us a summary.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate that. And one of the most successful pods we had last year was the interview with Dave Atwood. And I think I've got a few plans I haven't told you boys about how we might do a few more with, which I quite like the idea of ex-Bears players. Not to rock the boat, but just to get a kind of slightly different perspective on things. So maybe look out, and if we do have that massive gap again in the Six Nations, we're going to need something to fill it. So obviously if anyone else has got any ideas, let us know. And that takes us to the final thing, which is, I haven't really told him this, but this is a little segment based on our experience on Friday, which I'm going to call Miles's merch.
Right.
So Miles, you had this great idea that you told me about. You sent me a message today based on our experience of the plastic pint pots at Clifton. So talk us through it.
Well, I think we Clifton Rugby Club on Friday night had some fantastic, innovative beer cups, and I think did you outbring at Ashton Gate? Give these a try. I'm all for, Ashton Gate have gone a very sort of green eco
Project White,
exactly.
Yes.
And they're all compostable, but it still is a lot of waste, isn't it? Ultimately, I don't know how many years it's going to take them to compost. Anyway, what do we find wrong with carrying 3 or 4 2-pinters from the bar to our seats on a Friday night? The cup holders. Bloody pathetic, aren't
also,
they?
and the cups themselves are quite flimsy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Especially when it's cold.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are these things called Stacker Cup, which Clifton Rugby have introduced on Friday night. And do you know how many beers you could carry in one hand? Have a guess.
Go on, Miles. I'm going to say 3.
Higher.
I'm going to say 6.
I mean, 8.
8.
You can 8 beers.
And I think you should explain to listeners who are confused, how does it stack? How do they stack?
Absolutely. So there's a little, like we used to have down at Ashton Gate a few years ago, a solid plastic cup.
Almost like a measuring jug type.
Measuring jug.
Plastic,
coming out of it is a handle, almost like, you could describe it as like a sort of cylindrical pyramid shape.
Okay.
And you can stack that into the next
So another
cup.
handle goes into
another
handle.
handle.
So it's like a tankard.
So it's like a tankard. So you've got a handle, into a handle, into a handle, into a handle. 8 handles.
8 times.
So if you were lucky enough to bring 7 of your mates along, you could be sent to the bar to get 8 pints without spilling a drop.
But also, the other thing is, we realise that if
That
you know,
sounds like someone I want to marry.
well, when you get a half time, you go for a wee, Ashton Gate, and you're holding half a pint, and it's very if you're lucky, you can rest the pint
On the
on
top
a
of the
very
urinal.
narrow on the urinal,
You're right.
and it's a risk.
Yeah.
what you can do with these is the handle fits nicely
In your
into your pocket,
Oh,
and it's just the perfect size. So you could actually have a
You
pint
need
of
to be a little bit careful it doesn't swing round in your urine, sort of.
So there's practical
You're right.
reasons. So anyway, the whole point of this.
I mean, fair play, Clifton Rugby,
Yeah,
for that. That's
absolutely.
brilliant.
But this is Mars. This is
Anyway,
not the big thing.
well,
Your big
anyway,
idea
so
was
I've
what?
got an idea. It's like, we talked about people. Ding. We might consider bringing out some Bears Beyond the Gate stackable cup merch.
That people could buy.
Maybe in time for the live podcast.
Right.
We'll have a few thoughts about this. Maybe people could sort of buy one of these, and then if just imagine 100 sort of listeners bought these, and then we're in the beer queues down Ashton Gate
With their stackable bear.
stackable
Take them with
cups,
them.
with Bears Beyond the Gate. That would be the talking point in the queue more than the rugby, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
So
anyway,
and it
I like
also,
it, Miles.
I like it, and also I think also. Hang on, we talked about this earlier, didn't we? Did we say about putting the logo on the back of the home
Back of the shirt, you
Yeah.
did.
So we've got two ideas for Bears Beyond the Gate merchandising drive: the stackable pints, and somehow getting the Bears Beyond the Gate logo into the blank squares on the
Do you
home
know what?
shirt.
It's just given me an idea, actually. I think, we're bigging up Clifton Rugby Club, but actually we don't know. Why don't we go to Dings? Why don't we go to, Old Reds and see what they do there? Because all our local
research.
clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we've been at Dings for the Bristol Bears women's game, and
That's just straight plastic.
straight plastic.
Yeah, but they're
cups.
tougher up there, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're
Bit
tougher up
posher
there.
up there.
Yeah.
They've got a 4G pitch, haven't they? Yeah, absolutely.
It's a bit easier
So
to throw them.
so all right, okay. So we'll poo-poo that idea then.
Yeah, we
Anyway, it's the first time
I'm
I saw these at Clifton Rugby, and we were. It was talk of the town.
Yeah.
It was talk of the
So-
town. Well, just between us two.
So anyway, I mean, it's typical early pod, grand chat about
Yeah,
all sorts
big
of amazing
ideas.
things.
None of it'll come
We'll
off,
we'll
but-
make millions out of our merch, but well, you never
This
know.
time next year
If it
we'll be
happens,
millionaires.
If it happens, we mentioned it early doors. Anyway, boys, I think we really got to stop now. We don't want to go on too long. It's been
been
great
good.
fun, though, hasn't it?
Oh, I love it.
I mean, it's been great fun chatting away, and hopefully we'll do more of the same. Well, we will do more of the same.
Yeah.
Realistically, won't be for a couple of weeks, but I hope people are getting excited about the season like we are. If
We're
you have-
looking forward to seeing everyone, aren't we?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we
come up and see us.
Talking
Game
of
day,
that,
come up.
spotted Binsey in the shop today
Yeah.
on Law Street. He said, not long now, is it, eh?
Yeah, we saw
Love it.
we saw
It
Stoner.
is, isn't it?
We
Everyone's
saw,
excited.
we saw Stoner,
Stoner.
Yeah.
down at Clifton. We saw Debs from K-Town.
Yeah.
She works in the next office for me.
We
You
saw
know,
her, and we had a great time, and
I
it
might
just
even-
reminded me, this is what we love
It's
about
our family, isn't it?
our
It's a rugby
family,
family.
and you come across just a few random things, I rang Lee this week, desperation for a spark. He had an electrics crisis at home. His mate turned up, sorted out my electrics. He went, "How do you know Lee?" I went, "It's a sort of rugby connection." He went, "I used to play rugby, and I listened to your podcast, mate." So there we go.
Good, he's a good lad, Joyce. Good lad.
We spread far and wide in
Far and
BS3.
wide. Well, he's BS3.
Anyway, boys, I'm
Good
looking at
lad.
the time. We want to get this under an hour,
Yeah,
otherwise it's not a good
absolutely.
start, is it?
No.
So, thanks everyone for listening. Great to talk to you. And as we always say, 1, 2, 3.
Come on, the
Come on,
Bears.
the Bears.